Welcome to Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. I'm your host, Lashonda Counsel Rogers. In each episode, we have authentic and entertaining conversations about the impact of the law on women. You can find this show on my website, www.thecounselfirm.com, and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. Now, please join me in Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. And today we have attorney Anjel Burgess. How are you, Anjel?
Hello, I'm doing great. I hope you are.
Yes, I am doing well now that you are here. So I don't want to waste any of our time. Let's just jump in. So you are a Social Security disability attorney here in Georgia. So tell us what that all means, what you do, and your ideal client, and all that other good stuff.
Okay. Well, as you said, Social Security disability, that is my area of practice. That's my specialty. And what it is a federal program that is available to adults and children that have disabilities. And what the program provides is it provides a monthly check. So you got some financial support. And it also provides health insurance. So those are two key issues that individuals with disabilities have. They want to make sure that you have money to pay your bills, have a roof over your head, and that you're able to get to doctors so that you can get the treatment that you need. So the great thing about Social Security disability, again, is because it's a federal law and because the benefits are federal, even though my office is located right outside of Atlanta in Marietta, Georgia, I am able to service clients across the country. So I help everyone, no matter where you live, as long as you meet the requirements for disability, and that's adults and children.
Oh, well, I am glad you clarified that because the entire world, well, the entire U.S. needs to know about how fabulous you are. So you said as long as you qualify, what are some of the qualifiers for disability?
So it depends whether you're an adult or a child. So I'll start with adults. With adults, Social Security is looking to see whether you have conditions, and that could be physical, that could be mental, it could be both, whether those conditions are so severe that they prevent you from being able to work full time.
Okay.
So, and what they'll do is they'll look at medical records, they'll look at all of the evidence that shows that you're having symptoms and that those symptoms are impacting your life to a significant degree.
Okay.
So that's the requirements for adults. So even if you have a disability, if you're still able to work full time, then you're not going to qualify for Social Security disability. But if it's keeping you, the disability or disabilities are keeping you from working, then as an adult, that is something that you want to look into. You want to call me so that we can talk about your situation and figure out whether you will qualify for disability. Now, children are completely different. The rules are completely different for children because, typically children don't work. And what Social Security looks at for children is they look to see whether the conditions that the child has is so severe that it keeps them from performing in an age-appropriate way. So they'll look at children that don't have disabilities of the same age to compare you to. And they will see, okay, based off of the fact that this child, let's just say, for example, has autism.
I was about to ask you, that was going to be my example. Okay.
So if the child has autism and has, requires a lot of reinforcement in class, support, maybe requires a paraprofessional, maybe there's some behavioral issues. So they're going to look at all of the challenges that child has. And there is an expectation that a child the same age can perform in a certain way. And they've got those expectations laid out, kind of broadly, but they're laid out for, let's say, a 10-year-old. And they expect that a 10-year-old that doesn't have disabilities would be able to, communicate their needs appropriately, ask for help, that they can sit and they can focus and they can listen in class and not distract their peers. So they'll look at things like that, comparing, your child to other children same age to decide whether they qualify for disability. Also, as a child, though, besides the medical qualifications, there is a financial requirement.
Okay.
And for children's disability, they're looking at the family's income, the household income, and assets. And so you have to have, a low level of income and assets in order for your child to apply for disability or to qualify for disability. So again, if you're a family and you've got a child with disabilities, give me a call and I'll be happy to, look over things, talk to you, explain what the requirements are and see if your child qualifies.
So many things to unpack here. So first thing, with a child, does it have to be a permanent disability? Could it be something that's maybe a temporary impairment that potentially the child will grow out of? And if so, is there like a let's come back and reevaluate this process for children and maybe even for adults?
Yes, so that's a great question. For children or adults, doesn't matter, either one. The expectation is that the disability or the conditions are going to be so severe that they're expected to last at least 1 year.
Okay.
So if it's expected to last at least 1 year or more, then you can qualify for disability. There is no short-term disability, temporary disability, or partial disability. So if something happens like you break your leg and you're out of work for 6 weeks, you can't get disability benefits from Social Security for that because, they're expecting that within 6 weeks, you'll be able to recover and you get back to work. So for people that do qualify for disability, and let's say they get approved, there is what they call continuing disability review.
Mhm.
So Social Security is going to check back on you and they're going to make sure that you still meet the requirements. And that can be anywhere from, a year after you get approved to 7 years. So somewhere
Okay.
between a year and 7 years, they are going to reach back out to you and they're going to say, hey, we're just checking in. We want to get some medical updates from you and we want to make sure that you are still disabled.
Okay. So with regard to the disability, is there a particular panel of doctor that has to um, basically certify that you have this disability, or could it be your own family doctor or someone that you know and that may know your medical history?
Yes, so there is no specific panel.
Mhm.
What Social Security is looking for is actually they like to see what your treating doctor, what your family physician, what your specialist, whoever you get treatment from, they want to review records from that individual to see, okay, what are the diagnoses? What are the symptoms that this individual is reporting? And, do we have any indication of how the symptoms, how severe they are?
Mhm. That's interesting. So I know, although we want to live in this ideal world where everyone is good and great and does the right thing, but have you encountered people who would come to you that really aren't they're basically trying to prove a disability and they're not disabled? How do you handle that type of situation?
I've been doing this for disability
Okay.
for 12 years now.
Uh-huh.
So for the last 12 years, I spent all my time, just immersed in Social Security disability. And I've never had a client that I felt came to me and was trying to defraud the system.
Gotcha.
Now, we see things on TV, right? And it
Mhm.
makes it seem like there is this rampant fraud going on, and people are
Right.
just, they're trying to fool the government, they're trying to get benefits. And the incidence of actual fraud in disability cases is extremely low, like
Mhm.
2%. I mean, it is so low that,
Mhm.
the media to some degree has made it seem much bigger than it is. Now, I do have, every client that's ever come to me has a disability.
Okay.
So I've never had somebody come to me and say, I've got bipolar disorder, and they don't.
Hmm.
So they always have a disability. The
Okay.
question is, how severe is the disability?
Okay.
And that's where we rely on, what do the medical records say? What are your doctors saying about it? What are you telling your doctors? And
Hmm.
if it looks like you're telling your doctor, hey, I'm doing great,
Right.
medication's working, I feel great, then you and I will have a discussion about that. Because it's important that if you are putting, if you're going to Social Security and you're saying, I can't work, I can't do this, I can't do that, then your records should reflect that. And if they're not, you need to know that. And maybe you need to just do some soul searching, to figure out, okay, what's really going on with me? Is it
Yeah.
really that I can't work, or is it that maybe I'm just not able to find a job? If that's the
Right.
case, then I'm going to point you to some resources to help you find a job.
Hmm.
So we want to present cases to Social Security of people that are not able to work and that should meet the requirements.
That is so nice the way you put that. You said, "I'm gonna point you in the direction
Yes.
for what needs to happen." Now, I know that from time to time, I'll get calls from people who are interested in Social Security, disability, and obviously I send them your way, but they'll say, "Well, I got denied. I
Mhm.
got denied." What are some common reasons that people, when they try to do their own application, which I'm like, hint, hint, folks, let's not do that. Just call Anjel. She can do this for you. What are some things that people do to pretty much tank their disability case?
So there are a few things. First, in all fairness, I do want to say that when you apply for disability, Social Security keeps up with statistics, and I'm
Mhm.
a big statistics girl. Like
All right.
I like to look at the numbers, because the numbers are what the numbers are. We can't
Yeah.
change them. But statistically speaking, roughly 25 to 33% of people that apply are going to get approved the first time.
Okay.
Okay.
The first time. Okay.
That's a fairly decent number in the grand scheme of things. I know it doesn't sound like much,
It
but
doesn't.
but considering this process, it's fairly decent.
Okay.
25 to 33% of people are going to get approved, but the
Okay.
vast majority are going to get a denial. So just because you got a denial doesn't mean you're not disabled. That's
Okay.
why there's a process. And you have to continue with that process. You need to appeal. You
Hmm.
don't just read your letter and then say, you know what, I must not be disabled. I'm just going to
Hmm.
not do anything. And that's what a lot of people do. So you
Hmm.
do not want to give up. If you believe that you are entitled to benefits, you have to keep fighting. So we file an appeal. And when we file an appeal, 90% of people are going to get denied. And Social Security
Hmm.
says, we were right the first time. We looked at your case, we said you're not disabled, we're going to deny you again. So that happens 90% of the time when an appeal is filed. And
Okay.
then we request a hearing in front of a judge.
Okay.
That's the level where most people are going to get approved, is at the hearing level with the judge. And that is because your case, well, let me just speak for my office and what
Okay.
we do.
And what you guys do.
Right.
Yes.
What we do at our office is we, first of all, make sure that your case, all the documents, all the medical records are there for the judge. We want a complete file for the judge to review. We want the judge to know everything that's been
Mhm.
going on. The judge also takes a look at all of the prior denials. Okay. The judge gets to make an independent decision. We get to talk to the judge. So my client and I prepare for hearings. We go over the evidence. I make sure that my client knows, this is what your doctor's saying. let's talk about this. Help me to understand what's going on with you. I prepare briefs for every single case, for every single client, which lays out legal theories that the judge gets in advance of the hearing. And it also summarizes the medical evidence for the judge. So it makes it easy that, if the judge only had 2 minutes to look at your case, they can look at my brief and see exactly what's been going on with you for the entire time and why we feel that Social Security's rules apply to you. And then you, as my client, you get to testify, you get to explain, but you walk into the hearing knowing what to expect from the judge, knowing what the purpose of the hearing is, just knowing the entire order of things and how the hearings work. So we get you ready and we make sure that you are prepared to answer even those really hard questions. Sometimes there are things in our records that, decisions that have been made that weren't the best.
Right.
And I get you prepared so that you can explain it, that you're truthful, but it doesn't catch you off guard. And so that's the important thing, is knowing what the evidence is, even if there's bad evidence, and being able to explain your side of things.
Wow. So I know you mentioned for children that there is an income threshold. What about for adults?
So for adults, there are 2 disability programs. So under the kind of umbrella of disability, there's SSI and there is SSDI. So SSDI is the workers program. That's the program where, if you work for an employer, every time you get paid, you look at your paycheck, you see FICA on there, FICA. Part of the money that you're paying involuntarily, so you don't get a choice.
Right.
Part of the money that you're paying to FICA goes to fund your retirement so that you can get retirement benefits, but it also goes to fund the disability program so that if you become disabled, you can draw a monthly paycheck. So that's the SSDI program. There are no income thresholds for SSDI.
Okay.
A multimillionaire, as long as you're disabled, you will get benefits. The other disability program is SSI. And so SSI is also what children would be applying for. Okay. And so SSI is essentially it's like a welfare program for people that have limited income and assets and are disabled. So typically with SSI for adults, you may not have worked enough to qualify for SSDI, but you're still disabled. So you can still draw benefits under SSI, even though maybe you've never worked and you're 30 years old, but you're disabled. So as long as you meet the income threshold for SSI, then you can receive disability benefits.
So speaking of benefits, what are the benefits? For instance, I know it's monetary, but how is it calculated for each person?
So SSI there's a fixed federal benefit amount, which is $914, and that changes each year. So
is that per month?
That's per month.
Okay.
Not a lot of money.
No.
Not a lot of money.
No.
And that amount that's the maximum that you can get under the federal program. Now, there are some states that have additional supplements that you can get in terms of money. Georgia's not one of them. But that's the maximum. However, if you are receiving any sort of income, like let's say you're working part-time, your SSI is going to be reduced depending on how much you make for work. If you're receiving child support, if you're receiving any other income, then your SSI payments can be reduced. If you're living with someone and you're not paying rent, then they're going to reduce your SSI by 1/3 each month. So
what about 1/3? Why 1/3? I mean,
so because it's basically a welfare program, they want to make sure that you are not being subsidized by anyone else, so that you're not cared for. So if you're living with somebody else, then guess what? If you're not paying rent, then they are subsidizing you. They are paying your rent for you. So Social Security says, if somebody else is paying your bills, then we are going to reduce the amount of money that we give you in SSI. And particularly where rent is concerned, it's 1/3 that they are taking out of that 914
Wow.
if you're not paying rent.
So how wait, hold on. So how do they verify that? How do they determine, okay, you're living with someone? Does your name have to be on a lease or?
Yes.
Okay.
Your name needs to be on a lease, or if there's not a lease, there needs to be a rental agreement, which shows that you have an obligation to pay rent. And you have to be paying the fair market value. It can't be, well, I'm paying $20 a month, to my mom for rent. It needs to be that you are paying the reasonable value of rent to rent a room in your area or whatever it is that you're renting. So you have to provide documentation.
Okay.
Yeah. So SSI, the rules are strict for SSI.
Okay.
So if you get an inheritance, then that can knock you out of eligibility for SSI. If you're in a car accident,
Yes.
and you get a settlement, that can knock you out of eligibility for SSI. So typically the maximum, if you're single, $2,000 per month is the most that you can have in income and assets. And if you're married, typically the maximum is $3,000. Now, with being married, it depends on how many other children you have that are minors, things of that nature. But that gives you an idea that they do not allow you to have much in order to qualify for SSI.
Yes, because that comes up quite often in some of my personal injury cases, and we have to, play it the right way to make sure that the clients are benefiting, but they're not getting themselves in trouble either. So, assuming someone was on SSI and they decided, okay, your income is a little too much, can you then appeal that portion of the determination at some later date? Say you don't have that money anymore. How does that work?
Yes. So what you would do really with SSI is if you're somebody like, let's say you work, you need to be reporting your income every month because your SSI is going to change depending on how much money you make. And so you want to make sure that you are upfront with Social Security so that they don't come back later and say, oops, we overpaid you. You owe us $10,000. Pay us in 30 days.
30 days.
30 days is what those letters say. They give you 30 days. So you want to make sure that you are absolutely compliant with them. But if something happens, like let's say you get a settlement from a car accident and you get $5,000, right? Then what's going to happen is you're going to report that to Social Security. And as long as you have that $5,000, you're not going to get your SSI. However, surely you have bills, you have other things, other needs that you have, and they allow you to spend down the money. As long as you're spending it, on yourself and you're spending it on things that you need. You can't give it away. You can't ask your cousin to hold the money for you. So you can spend down the money and then regain your eligibility. You can certainly do
Right. And that's what happens with most of our clients. Well, depending on the size of the settlement, they're just done with Social Security, SSI because of the amount. But there's others that, they'll spend it down and then they go back.
Whatever you need to do. But that is completely different than SSDI and the amount of money that you get. So for SSDI, the amount of money that you get each month is going to depend on how much you paid in with those FICA taxes, or if you were self-employed, then it's SECA, the SECA taxes. So it depends on how much you paid in. I think the average payment for SSDI is around $1,300 a month. But again, it depends on how much you paid in. So if you are a higher wage earner, then your SSDI payment could be $3,200 a month.
Gotcha.
So it just depends on what you put in. And everybody on SSDI is going to get a different amount because it's based off of their own contributions. And so and Social Security uses a special formula to figure out how much you would get. Excuse me. Essentially, what it equates to for SSDI is what your retirement amount would be.
Okay.
Treat you like you've already retired. It just
wow.
doesn't come out of the retirement pot. It comes out of the disability pot. But that's how you're paid.
Wow. That is so interesting. I'm telling you, you have to juggle a lot, but you make this happen for your clients every day. So that's amazing. So tell me, what drew you to Social Security and this practice area?
So I have always been drawn to working with people that I felt were underserved, underrepresented. And my kind of first love for working with underserved or underrepresented populations was working with the elderly, starting out in high school. And I had envisioned this career for myself where I was going to be a doctor and I was only going to work with elderly patients. It's going to be a geriatrician. And so I worked in retirement homes. I worked in assisted living facilities. And I just really grew to love, working with people and just kind of advocating for them. And as I got older, I learned, number one, I'm a pretty good advocate,
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it, but I also learned that I enjoyed working with not just the elderly. I enjoyed working with anyone that I felt, was not getting what they deserved and what they needed. And so that just drew me to working with the disabled and disabled populations because disability of one family member, in fact, affects the entire family.
It does.
For life. And so it's just so important to me to make sure that people, number one, know about resources. They know what's available to you. They know it's available to their families and that they're able to access those resources. So that's just been my focus, for many years. And I just love working with people of all ages, with any type of condition. So whether it's physical, whether it's mental health, any type of condition that is impacting your life and that is causing challenges in your life, then that's what I do. I want to work with you to help you to get the resources that you need.
Okay, so as far as if there's someone who wanted to work with you, how do you do your fees? Is it a contingency practice or how does that work?
So Social Security regulates the payment of fees to Social Security disability attorneys. So I like to say that we are very special as Social Security disability attorneys in many ways.
Yeah.
And one of those ways is that our clients do not have to pay us to represent them, not up front anyway. Social Security says that as attorneys, we have to, if we want to get paid, we have to win for you. Okay. So that a lot of, with your personal injury work,
that's how we do it. Yeah.
You have to win. But not only do we have to win the cases for our clients, we have to make sure that our clients are entitled to back pay or past due benefits.
Okay.
We do both of those things to get paid. And if our clients are entitled to back pay, Social Security pays us directly out of our clients' back pay.
Okay.
And they will pay us 25% of our clients' back pay with a maximum payment of $7,200.
Okay.
Okay. And so let me give you a scenario in which the back pay would come into play. Because this process tends to be long to get disability. Social Security, ultimately, when they find that you're disabled, they are going to decide when your disability began.
Okay.
Most cases, the average case, if you go to a hearing, will take you about 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Which is a long time, because you have to go through the process, get those denials, wait for a hearing. So that's about a 2-year long process. Over that 2-year period, you have accrued back pay. And so Security is then going to owe you a lump sum of money once they decide that you're disabled, as long as they agree that you became disabled, before you filed for benefits.
Sure.
And in most cases, they do. So they will pay us out of that pot of back pay that they owe to the client. We do not get any payment for your ongoing benefits. It's just for your benefits. So it's a one-time payment to your attorney. And so that's why it is in your best interest to hire an attorney. An attorney is going to take your case if they don't think they can win, and if they don't think that they can get you back pay. So to me, it's a win-win situation for clients, because you don't have to worry about somebody taking advantage of you, snatching your money, and saying, "Oh, sorry, we can't help you."
Right. Oh my goodness. And unfortunately, our time is up already, and we didn't even get to, because I wanted to know, okay, so what do you do for fun? What do you do for this? So we're gonna have to have you come back.
Absolutely.
We're gonna have to have you do part 2. Okay. But Anjel, how can the listeners, the viewers, find you?
So you can contact me on my website, which is www.disabilityhelpline.com. You can call my office, 770-422-8111. I'm on Facebook at Burgess and Christensen. I'm on Instagram, Burgess and Christensen. So you can find me pretty much everywhere online. And you can reach out to my office. We will take a look at your case. We'll talk to you. We'll let you know if we think we can help. If there are things that we think that you need in order to prove your case, we'll tell you that too. So we'll give you an honest assessment of where we think things stand for you.
Okay. So before I have to get in, tell us about disability really quickly before we have to log off.
Okay. So I've got a podcast called The Disability, with TEA at the end. And the purpose of the Disability podcast is to provide resources to families of individuals with disabilities, to other professionals such as yourself, so that everyone knows about things that are available to people in the community, other types of attorneys that you're going to need if you have a child with disabilities, resources about finding jobs, just all sorts of resources we focus on. And I interview some dynamic guests. You have been a guest on my podcast and talked to us about injury and trucking accidents, and the idea is just to make sure that our community knows where to go and how to plan for the things that are going to pop up in life as they're navigating through life.
Oh, wow. This has been amazing, and I wish we had more time. But everyone, don't be discouraged. If you're denied, call Anjel and her team. They will get a professional opinion before you give up, because you could be missing out on benefits that you are entitled to. And as Attorney Burgess said, that when they win, it's no money out of your pocket, upfront money out of your pocket. So it's a win-win situation. So you do not want to miss the opportunity to get the benefits that you deserve. So until next time, I'm Lashonda Counsel Rogers, and you've been enjoying Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda, and I will see you next time. You've been tuning into Life Lessons in Law with Lashonda. In each episode, we have authentic and entertaining conversations about the impact of the law on women. I hope you'll join me each time. You can find this show on my website at www.thecounselfirm.com and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and more. We appreciate your positive comments and reviews. And don't forget to share this show with others. I've been your host, Lashonda Counsel Rogers.